Oh, my legs are smooth.
Good morning, and first of all, thank you to everybody that commented and gave me feedback on the video. Hugely encouraging. I got a lot out of that, so thank you so much for putting in the effort and putting in the time to do that for me. Overwhelming request for brewing espresso basics, so let's get into that. Let's go from woe to go. How do we get in there and how do we do the fundamental process of brewing an espresso, eliminating all of the chances for there to be mistakes? And my old boss, Sam, used to say that it's not about doing the whole thing right, but rather improving 1% incrementally on each of the processes that you go through, tamping and grinding and distributing and all that sort of thing. So let's do that. Let's go through all of the 1%ers and see if we can make an excellent tasting espresso out of it. It's really important. It's really important to start with really high quality roasted coffee. It's hard to brew a decent espresso. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's hard to brew a decent espresso if you don't have great coffee to start with. First steps first is we are going to take the portafilter out of the coffee machine and bang it. Although this is clean because it's first thing in the morning, we are going to bang out the coffee that was inside. This portafilter needs to be spotless, it needs to be clean. If it's not, have a rag on hand so that you can wipe that coffee out. From here, we can put the handle, the now clean handle, into the grinder. Now, I always encourage people to use a set of scales when they're brewing their espresso, but that's something that we are going to come back to. We also need to clean this thing, the shower screen. All of that coffee, get rid of it. Don't want it in there, it's going to make your coffee bitter. Backflush. Distribution is really important. We need to get all of those coffee particles nice and even within the basket. If we don't do this, we're going to get an uneven espresso that is sour and under extracted and bitter and over extracted at exactly the same time. There's a bunch of different ways that you can distribute the coffee within the basket. This is the one I go for. I use the meaty part of my hand and I just bang the coffee, rotating it around until I get the coffee to slide into all of the spots to make it nice and flat. The more you do this, you'll get really fast. I'm not a huge fan of these methods that require you to stick your finger in the coffee because that's how you get that manky barista finger. Mine's not too bad, but some of the guys out there, their fingers are all crusty and dried. I'm looking at you, bestie. I think there's a bunch of lore and mysticism when it comes to the tamp about exactly how hard you press and all that sort of thing. But here it is. Here's the really simple breakdown. A tamp should be even, straight up and down, left to right, identical down, right down the middle. And it should be as hard as you can press without busting up your arm. You don't need to smash the coffee into the basket. It doesn't need to be this brutal pressure. It just needs to be enough to compress any air pockets that are in the coffee and squish the coffee together just so that it holds together. That's it. You don't need to give yourself RSI, which is a real issue for baristas. Don't press so hard. It's just a little bit. We hold the tamper by placing the butt of the tamper in the palm of our hand, wrap our fingers around it, and our thumb and forefinger rest on the edge. It should be nice and comfortable. And this gives you the ability to make a straight line down your arm and into the tamper, and ultimately straight into the coffee. Quick break in our usual programming because we need to unpack a truck because we've got a coffee delivery. Tropical unloading. It's nice and even. we haven't given ourselves RSI. We have now successfully compressed our coffee into this cake, which means that it won't fall out. That's great because now we need to head into the espresso machine. We're going to gently put the coffee into the machine. We don't want to smash it because that's how you get a thing called channeling. That's not ideal. There are rules around how long you should let the espresso sit in the basket for. I don't think that it really matters if it sits there for a few seconds. Now, you do want to keep an eye out for a thing called channeling, which is where a fissure or a crack is formed in the coffee cake, in the bed of the coffee, and water is flowing through that path of least resistance. That channeling can happen when you don't tamp properly and when you don't distribute it properly. And it can also happen when you bash the coffee puck into the machine. So keep an eye out for that, and you can spot channeling really easily. You can spot it because your shots are really thin and wavy, and they'll come out gushing really quickly, and they'll pour a lot faster than all the other shots that you've already brewed. And now we can brew. But that's it down there, brewing for the first time. The fundamentals of brewing an espresso are actually quite simple. The mechanics of getting ground coffee and turning it into a drink isn't hard. It's just about focusing on those key areas over and over. Make sure that you're distributing the coffee evenly so that you have a nice even coffee bed for the water to flow through. When you're tamping, tamp in a way that doesn't give yourself RSI, because that's a real issue. And also tamp in a way so that you can compress the coffee nice and evenly and get rid of all of those cracks and air bubbles. Finally, when you're putting the portafilter into the espresso machine, you need to do it calmly, cool as a cucumber, so as not to disrupt all of that tamping and distribution that you've already done. And your reward for all of this focus and making sure that you adhere to the Sam Keck 1%ers is delicious espresso. Hey, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, maybe subscribe. Ooh, I've never said that before. And maybe drop me some questions in the comments if there's anything that you'd also like to know. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.